Hey everybody, it's Chuckie Thomas, the ADHD screenwriter. Got a good one for you today. These are 5 specific subgenres that you can mine for ideas for your film. Hey and welcome back. This is Chuckie Thomas, the ADHD screenwriter. Are you looking for an idea for a film but just nothing's coming to you? Word on the street is Hollywood's looking for weird and very original. Well, I've got 5 specific subgenres that you can mine for ideas. Before we get started, make sure and like and subscribe and comment below. Tell us all about your writing journey, your ADHD journey, or whatever you want to talk about. All right, 5 ideas for films. Let's go. So I got to start with horror as a horror guy. Superhero films have kind of dominated the box office for 20 years now. And I think there's a kind of a lack of films that really dissect what it is to be a superhero on like a horror level. There was that film Brightburn that was basically like, what if Superman was evil? He's a little kid. Uh-oh, he's got superpowers. Oops, he's evil. Not really what I'm talking about. The Clayface movie that's supposed to come out either this year or next year. The DC film is closer to what I'm talking about. It's that it's going to be a body horror film, from what I understand. And that's what I mean. What if you woke up one day and you had spider powers and you're climbing on the walls and it's just all of a sudden hits you like, oh my God, what is, my body has completely changed. Or lasers start shooting out of your eyes, your nipples or whatever. And all of a sudden you're just like, oh, what is that? How does that change you? It's nothing that really dives into that. A lot of superhero films will have that, whoa, this is so cool moment where Spider-Man's jumping across buildings and webbing everywhere and just like so excited. They don't really go into what's essentially the cosmic horror of, or body horror of just like, my entire element has changed. Like, what do I do with this? Like think of something interesting like, what if a superhero was legitimately in a horror film with like a slasher or something? Or like what if like Moon Knight had to defeat the alien substance from Annihilation? How does he even try to tackle that? I think there's a lot of room to mine this kind of thing. And again, superhero films are still really big. I think something like that could do really well. One big subgenre of books right now is the romance subgenre. I feel like all of book talk is talking about romance books. And some of these get pretty wild, right? I actually remember a few years ago, I was talking to a bookstore owner, and she was telling us about this series of books that's essentially like, what if a honey badger became a man?
Snake's up in the tree. Honey badger don't care.
And then fell in love with women and romanced them. And this wasn't like a little book that was coming out. She was expecting like a rush of people coming to get this book. And this is a series. And this is not the only series of shape-shifting lovers kind of books, right? So it's a big subgenre right now. And people are looking for this kind of thing. And I mentioned Hollywood's looking for weird and wild. And boy, some of these books get weird and wild for sure. I almost want to say go as wild as possible, but some of these books, seriously, the way they sound on TikTok anyway, a little bit too wild. So maybe tone them down a little bit in that. But I really think there is an opportunity for some of those dollars that are going towards these books, and it's predominantly a women audience. They're looking for movies like this. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey was huge when it came out, and that was, let's be honest, it was not very good. But some of these other books, I'm sure they're great, and they could make good movies. You could come up with an original idea and sell it and make a lot of money. I just think there's, the wind's shifting in a certain way and you want to pay attention to it, right? You always want to write something that comes from the heart, of course, for sure. So make sure it's something that you feel deeply. But when something like this is going on, you got to pay attention to it. As technology continues to change, and some say erode our way of life, cyberpunk stories, I feel, are going to become more prominent and prevalent. Now, think of this through a current lens of AI. There's been a lot of ground covered in cyberpunk stories already, in sci-fi in general, but AI is kind of changing the way we see everything. Now, sci-fi, cyberpunk, everything, is all about the present. The actual themes and everything. The story you're telling is about what's happening currently. Sure, it's set all in the future, but you're basically telling the tale of this is what I think I'm experiencing right now in this day and age. I'm going to tell the story of the present in the lens of the future. I also think combining cyberpunk with something like folk horror. I know I keep coming back to horror, but I'm a horror guy. Whatever, get over it. Combining those two things could be really interesting to make an even smaller subgenre. I mean, like, cyberpunk and sci-fi stories are all about the city, you know, all those crazy things going on. Maybe your body's turning into a machine or whatever. Folk horror is all about out in the country. City versus country, that's a dynamic that's already rife with drama. And as we get further into the future and AI continues to change everything, technology continues, we've got self-driving cars, that kind of stuff. Anything outside of that automatically becomes folk horror. Like, I don't understand that. That's weird. What is a cow? Like, it just becomes folk horror. I think there's a lot of opportunity to mine these kind of things, combining cyberpunk with something interesting like folk horror, and to tell a really great tale of today through the lens of the future. Like superhero movies today, the Western used to have an absolute chokehold on Hollywood and the box office. And like we're seeing today with superhero films kind of slowly fading away, Western films just faded away as well and became like a bygone era of Hollywood. But occasionally, one will just pop up and do really well, kind of hit the zeitgeist, and people go, oh yeah, Westerns. I really feel like there's something ingrained in Americans to just appreciate the spirit of Westerns, if maybe you don't necessarily like them, but there's something in America just like the violence, the gritty nature of it, you know, expansion and like fighting against nature and that kind of thing. I don't know. There's just something about it that's very American. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to tell modern stories with the spirit of the Western. Think of a movie like No Country for Old Men, which is essentially a neo-Western, or Breaking Bad, which is a neo-Western. It just happens to have drugs involved, but that's still a pretty Western story. You have more traditional Westerns like Yellowstone in 1923. I haven't actually seen those shows, but I understand they're more traditional Westerns. But think of Logan. That's a superhero film, talking about superheroes. That just happens to have Wolverine and Professor X in it, but it's basically a Western. Or The Mandalorian is a great show that's basically a Western. That George Lucas used to watch samurai films, Westerns, and he turned those into Star Wars, and then Mandalorian kept that going. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to find a really cool story that embodies the spirit of the Western and tells a modern tale. I bet you can find it. All right, so for number 5, let's try something crazy. Samurai, high fantasy, disaster action film. Sound a little bit too crazy? Let's think it out.
Right on! Let's do it! Rock that world! Rock that world!
All right, so the main couple they're 2 elves, and they're married, and the king kills their son. So they used to be samurai in the king's guard, but they're ostracized, and they're sent out of the city, their son's dead, and they're vowing revenge, right? So they've got to get back in and get that revenge. However, it turns out the king needed this son and this sacrifice to stop an oncoming apocalypse. It's going to destroy the elf world or whatever. Didn't work. Whoops. Now we have a disaster. So this elf couple, they've got to break into the city, and they've got 2 objectives. They've got to stop the apocalypse, and more importantly, they've got to get revenge for their son. It's a crazy concept, and it's a lot of labels, but in the end, it's about a grieving couple trying to get revenge for their son. And that's the most simple, basic thing. Just revenge, grief. I mean, it's perfect. The labels don't really mean that much. The labels are going to help you come up with a story or they're going to help market the thing. You can have elves on it or whatever. But at the core of it, you've got this grieving couple. The point is, the labels are not important ultimately. What's ultimately important is the story you're telling, the characters, the cool setting, all this stuff coming from you. That's what's important. All these labels are just for fun, and I hope they helped you come up with something cool. So that was it. Those are 5 subgenres I think you could mine for ideas. And if you want to take that elf idea and run with it, please do. Just make sure to comment below and tell me all about it. Maybe give me your email so you can send it to me and I can read it and tell you what I think about it, because I'm excited if you do tell that story. Make sure to like and subscribe before you go, because you got to come back for more videos. We got tons of more cool stuff coming along. Comment below and just tell me, what's your favorite subgenre of film? Is it folk horror? Is it romance? What is it? And of course, before we go, stop disassociating, you ADHDers. I see you. You're probably thinking about all those subgenres now, aren't you? And you're thinking, oh boy, let me go off into this tangent. Nope. You go write your story and then come back and watch more videos and also maybe think of some subgenres. All right, see you next time. I mean, maybe going back to tip 1, maybe there's a cosmic horror kind of angle to it. Maybe, like, hey, honey badgers need love. Why doesn't Cthulhu need love?